Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Big games across Europe, fellas, this weekend. Obviously, Bayern against Leverkusen at Leverkusen. And we've got the Derby d'Italia as well. A lot of the big hitters have been involved in Champions League football as well, Steve. I just wondered whether squads might rotate a little bit. Real Madrid, of course, in between City legs. Atalanta down from the first leg. Milan, who take on Verona, could they rest a few players? Is that something that bettors have got to be mindful when it comes to team news specifically this weekend?
Good day to you both. Yes, you're absolutely right, Dan. I mean, obviously this is the first time we've ever had a playoff round in the Champions League, but I suppose it's the equivalent of the last 16 in previous years, where teams, sometimes do rotate depending on the circumstances. And if you want to play it sort of ultra safe, you've got to wait for the lineups, because there's no point in betting on a game knowing there's a risk, worrying about what team they're going to field, and then you see the 11 and you think, oh no, I've bet on the wrong team here, or you regret your bet. So if you want to be safe, then absolutely. But, other people, and I'm sometimes in that boat, I like to try and predict what the 11 might be, whether there will be any rotation or not, because if you do that in advance, you can also get an edge. But yeah, in answer to your question, it's worth watching out for.
Yeah, I mean, some teams obviously have got titles to go for. I mean, Real Madrid might want to rest, might not be able to. Steve, Paris Saint-Germain in a different situation. They're in control of their Champions League tie, and indeed in control of Liga as well. So Luis Enrique can do pretty much what he wants. I guess Dortmund may be the same. Bayern to a lesser extent. I mean, I know it was only a solitary goal success, a 2-1 win over Celtic, but the home leg to come, so they can go big against Leverkusen. But it's something maybe to bear out this weekend.
Yeah,
I think so.
Some might say. Sorry, I thought you were directing at me again there with the Bayern.
No, go on. I was speaking to James there. Let's get James's thoughts on this one, Steve.
Well,
Come on,
James.
We've said before on the show that it's been a really busy January and February, hasn't it? Because we've had domestic cup competitions, we've had Super Cup in some countries, and then we've had Europe. I actually think teams are not just looking at team news this weekend because of the games we've had in midweek in Europe. I think they're actually having to manage it long term here. We've seen clubs like Lille in France who actually aren't involved at the moment in Europe. Their president has talked about just how many games they've had going all the way back to July and August. So, yeah, I think the games that we're in the middle of this weekend in Europe are a big factor. But I do think also clubs will be looking at, we want to stay fresh and fit here all the way through March, April and May. So there's a lot to take on board. I tend to agree with Steve. I think that team news this weekend will be important because some teams will feel they can rotate because they're in comfortable positions in their European tie. Other teams less so. So I do think team news will be a big deal.
Yeah, maybe not as predictable as it usually is, so well worth taking a look at wherever you get your team news sources from. Just a reminder of the boys' profit and loss so far. We are, of course, in profit as a show. And, of course, last Sunday had a really good day as well. I always say bet the leans. I know some of you don't, but we try and give opinion and thoughts and analysis on more than just the official plays. Get your comments in via YouTube. We had some really nice comments regarding the show last weekend. Keep them coming. And of course, we are on Instagram as well at Because We Win. We've got plenty of exclusive content coming your way via Insta. The boys put all sorts of selections up there. Likewise, the newsletter. Hopefully you have subscribed, bettingweeklystudios.com if you haven't. Let's start with 2-unit plays from both of our European cappers on Saturday. Both in France. We'll get Steve's thoughts first of all, and the main bet of the weekend on Marseille against Saint Etienne, which is Saturday 11 a.m. Marseille, the short price favourites at -400. Saint Etienne are +950 here. Are you banned betting on Saint Etienne on the money line or the Asian line? Did we establish that last week, Steve, if it didn't go to plan? Are you now banned? You're not allowed to bet them anymore. Is that right or not?
No, this is absolute rubbish, right? Since Adik Holland came in as manager on the show, I have only lost 0.31 units on them. So all that I gained in the early two games, I've eventually lost. But I feel a little bit unfortunate.
I'm getting Steve. Steve, I'm getting betting the draw in the Champions League vibes from you. That's all I'm saying.
The thing is, right,
which is my complete sunk cost fallacy at the moment. But anyway, you're not even going to go for Saint Etienne on the money line or the Asian line.
No, I'm going the goals. I'm going on the goals here, and I want to justify why I kept going with Saint Etienne, because I believe had it, if they'd actually got a couple of wins, say against Lille there, or got the win last week, I think it could have been huge for me. I feel a bit sorry for Saint Etienne. I think teams have actually played really well against them. Like, I think after the Rams game, I think maybe it was a wake-up call for the opponents, just looking at them, and they've been ready for their style. I didn't think some teams would be ready for them, really. But fair play, even the likes of Auxerre and Nantes were well prepped and well trained for them. I suppose that's soccer these days, isn't it? You get a lot of footage, you know what teams are going to do, surprises are not there.
Yeah.
But I think Saint Etienne have played a lot better than they were in the first half of the season. They've got a distinct style. The problem is that it's probably a bit too open. And there was, me and you were in discussion a few days ago about a tweet that a well-known account in Europe posted up about the problems is that perhaps they haven't got the players for what the manager wants to do now. I think he's maybe trying to make... the quality levels probably aren't there. It's great intentions and that, but they're far too open at the back. So I've got to go for the goals here. Marseille are playing a lot better again. They're even become a bit more reliable at home. I think this match could be quite similar to how they beat Lyon here 3-2 recently. Apart from Saint Etienne, are not as good as Lyon. So Marseille are going to enjoy this. They sometimes have problems against teams that park the bus and frustrate them at home and are hard to break down, but Saint Etienne aren't going to play that way. It's going to be open. They're going to give it a go on the counter-attack. If they take their chances, they might give Marseille a bloody nose, but to tell you the truth, I'm a bit worried here. At some point, I think Saint Etienne could take a big beating with this style against a good team that really do take all their chances. It nearly happened against Lille, didn't it? 4-1. They were down to 10 men. I just think it could get ugly on a bad day, which is why I prefer the goal line over 3.25. You could look at both teams score, yes, as well. But Marseille could cover this goal line on their own, really. We know that they don't need that many big chances to score goals this season. They've got individual players who can find the back of the net from low XG opportunities. They beat Angers 2-0 last week, completely dominated the game. I felt for overbackers in that. Thankfully, we weren't overbackers. We were on the Marseille with James's 2-unit play, but it should have been 3 or 4, really. And I think Marseille really will knock up quite a big win here against Saint Etienne. 4-1 again could happen, 3-1. Even to 0, it could be 4 or 5 if Sante play too open. But I don't think they're going to change, knowing this manager. He's not just going to suddenly defend. So the over 3.25 goal line is my 2-unit play at -107. To tell you the truth, if I was in 10 units up on the show, I'd probably take over 3 here and be conservative. But I need the units, Dan. So I've got to be more aggressive here. And, for those who often ask the question, do I go below the goal line or above it? For those who can only access the 3.5 goal line, I'd go over 3.5. So I think both teams can score. And if Sante don't, Marseille can cover it on their own. Yeah,
plus 120, and if you want to go that extra quarter over 3.5, but the 2-unit play is over 3.25. James's 2-unit play is Toulouse Paris Saint-Germain, which is the late Saturday game in France. So 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday in the US. Toulouse are plus 450 here. Paris Saint-Germain minus 195. PSG, as we know, James, absolutely flying at the moment. And Toulouse have had a bit of a drop-off. They were a side that we were sort of mindful of for a little while, but they're 5 without a win here, and their record against the good sides is not good. So are we playing PSG to cover the handicap or Toulouse to put the brakes on PSG?
Yeah, we're playing PSG here, Dan. It's my 2-unit play. PSG -1 on the Asian handicap, which is available at -122. So it feels to me like a bet to nothing, this, because if PSG win by a single goal, then you get your stakes back. You can only lose here if PSG don't win the game. And are they playing the best football in Europe at the moment would be the question I ask. I think maybe they are. A very short period of time I'm referring to here, but they have been absolutely terrific in the last month or so. They've won 5 on the spin, All 5 wins have been by 2 or more goals. This is across all competitions. We saw them play really well in midweek to beat Brest in the Champions League playoff 3-0, a very comfortable win for PSG. So I've said it before on the show, Dan, people might think, well, they've got such a big cushion at the top of League One. Can you actually back them to win this type of game in the league where they don't really need to win? I honestly think you can. I have seen no signs so far of PSG either easing off or slipping up in this kind of game. They've been actually really impressive quietly at getting win after win in games that you would argue they don't really need the 3 points from. So I don't think they will ease off. I think they've got a big enough squad to rotate in maybe 2 or 3 positions if the manager feels they need to. After that midweek Champions League win, you said it about Toulouse, that they're not playing great. It's too early to say they've got nothing to play for, but not really in a way, because they're almost certainly going to finish in mid-table. I think they probably feel they're not quite good enough to challenge for Europe, and I don't think that will happen. So I'm not saying their motivation is slipping yet. I don't think that would be fair, but they are a club a little bit without an objective at the moment in the League One table, and that's always dangerous, I think, when you're facing a team who are flying like PSG are. So yeah, I think PSG all the way here, very confident to make it my 2-unit play. And I just wanted to flag up Ousmane Dembele for people who have not been watching PSG and maybe wondering what on earth is going on with him, because he's in unbelievable scoring form. He's got 10 goals in his last 4 matches for PSG, and he's already scored as many goals in 2025 as he managed in the whole of 2024. So Dembele is in fantastic form. He's been reinvented as a number 9 by Luis Enrique. Hands up, I have to say, I wouldn't have done that myself, but it's worked. He's in fantastic scoring form. He is a big reason why PSG are racking up comfortable winning margins at the moment. So I took a look at him as well in the to score market. He was plus 111, I think, earlier in the week. Then he went minus money. As we're recording now, he's plus 100 to score and plus 460 to score 2 goals or more in this game. So if you are looking for a player to back, Dembele is in unbelievable form for PSG. He might be rested this weekend, but then if he is rested, you'd get your stakes back anyway. So he's the player to follow, but my 2-unit play is on PSG, who should, for me, continue their brilliant form this weekend. -1 on the Asian handicap at -122.
And potentially we've got some Betting Weekly newsletter betters that have got Dembele at 12s to be Liga top scorer. Which one of you two nice gentlemen put that one up?
Yeah, well, I put that up, I think it was late December. Dembele 12-1 to be League One top scorer. There were 2 reasons for it at the time, Dan. The first was we don't have a standout goal scorer in League One this season. There's no Kylian Mbappe, there's no Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Cavani like we used to have back in the day. So I always felt there was room for somebody to come through. And the second reason was Luis Enrique did float the idea of reinventing Ousmane Dembele as a number 9. We know he didn't like Kolo Muani, who he's let go on loan to Juventus.
Who's scoring for fun.
Who's scoring for fun. And, he played Dembele as a number 9 a few times in the first half of the season. So I just felt that if he was put in that position, maybe his finishing, which is erratic to say the least from a wide position, would improve. And the fact that he doesn't have a great deal of competition. 12s at the time, it looked really big to me. So we are on him with our betting weekly newsletter. 12-1 to be League One top scorer. He is top of the League One scoring charts at the moment. So we're crossing our fingers that this run of form can keep going.
Steve, would we back him now? Plus 120 to finish as top goal scorer, 16 goals, 3 clear of Mason Greenwood, who's 2-1.
I would never back him. I don't trust the player.
I heard you with Will speaking about Ousmane Dembele in midweek.
Here's a good question for both of you guys and anyone watching as well. If semi-final or final of a Champions League, he's through 1-on-1. Are you really trusting him? No, I wouldn't. I honestly wouldn't. But I'll give credit to Luis Enrique, who has basically seen stuff that we definitely didn't see. A central striker would have been laughable, really. And I think the reason, Kolo Muani or Dembele, I would always have said Kolo Muani. But the type of striker he wants in his system isn't a Kolo Muani type. He wants a Dembele sort of player. But honestly, I look at him and he's very predictable how he finishes. He's going to go on his left foot. He's going to try and mostly open it up. He'll get found out eventually. Keepers will work him out. I think his composure might fall in time. But in terms of a top scorer, because PSG creates so many chances and goals, he's going to be in great position to just convert tap-ins and really high XG opportunities, which are kind of unmissable. So I think, he could be the top scorer, but he's someone I'm still he's got to do
Not
more for me
convinced
in time.
just yet.
Yeah, he's got to do it over a longer period for me to regain my trust on a player who, quite frankly, in the last decade, might be one of the most overrated in world football.
The note you sent me, James, was suggesting that L'Equipe's saying that he's the best player in world football at the minute.
Yeah, well, there was a piece in L'Equipe newspaper this week. Is Dembele currently the best player in the world? I mean,
look at Steve's face. Just look at his face.
Not happy with that. I mean, my answer to that question would be no. But the very fact you can pose that question about Dembele, I mean, it tells you what form he's in. And I think in terms of his finishing, Steve's right in a way. He's going to have a lot of tap-ins if he stays in central positions in that PSG team because they've got so much creativity out wide. Bradley Barcola, Desiree Doué's been in good form. Kvaratskhelia obviously come in. All he needs to do is hold that central position, and the chances will come. So I tend to agree with Steve. It's very early days. It's an amazing run of form, but it's less than 2 months of scoring form from him. So we'll wait and see. But in terms of that League One top scorer chart, I mean, it's his to lose now because he's in such a strong position.
About Kolo Muani 1-on-1. I keep thinking about that World Cup final.
Yeah.
Anyway, Union Berlin against Borussia Mönchengladbach next. This is Steve's hot dog selection coming up, 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. Union Berlin plus 133, Gladbach plus 188. I like this bet, but all the numbers don't stack up exactly for me. Gladbach, I think we've mentioned over the course of the season, Steve, are a side that are fairly predictable. Union Berlin put in a great performance last week. I'm slightly concerned. I'm going to play this bet with you, but I'm slightly concerned there's a bit of recency bias. But talk us through your hot dog.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hot dog for me this week. Union Berlin on a -1 Asian handicap at plus 265. And you're right, really, this is based on pure recent form. This is not over the season or over the whole stats for the campaign, things like that. But the last 2 matches for Union Berlin have seen a massive improvement. They have had over 40 shots combined against Leipzig at home and Hoffenheim away. And, I mean, in return, I mean, they restricted RB Leipzig to just 6 attempts in a 0-0 draw. Should have been, they should have won the game. And the big problem for Union has always been scoring goals. But, last week they came 4-0 at Hoffenheim, Hoffenheim are in poor form, to be fair. But still, that's a great result. Hollerbach got himself a couple of goals. Benedikt Hollerbach, probably the key player for them, really. Out wide, cuts inside. Gwen Stefani, the Bundesliga, if you want to call him that.
No.
But
we had enough
yes.
musical gags on the other show. We're not having him on this one. This is more serious. Come on.
But, yeah, I mean, he's in form. And the new manager, Stefan Baumgart, who's come in. And basically, my comparison is he's like a Bundesliga Tony Pulis, both in terms of style and looks. He wears this weird cap, like a farmer's cap in a way. And he's at both teams to score no machine at times. When he was at Cologne, already in his spell at Union Berlin, I think 5 out of 6 games have gone both teams score no. And Union Berlin are the sort of team, when they win matches, they tend to keep clean sheets. They just always have historically done that. It's not an easy place to go away from home, and I think they can win the game. I mean, I would have no problem backing them on the money line, on the draw no bet, on the -1/4 of a goal. But I've just fought for the hot dog here because I think their defence looks so tight suddenly again. There is a suspension in the back line for this, by the way. Trimmel is ruled out for a yellow card suspension. But I think they can get the job done against a Gladbach side who are actually unbeaten in 3 games. But I quite like that because Borussia Mönchengladbach are not the sort of team who go on long unbeaten runs, are they, really? They're quite a sporadic team, put a few good performances in here and there. They're not a team I like to bet against too often because I quite like them. And on their day, I believe they can beat anyone. But this spot looks a really good one for Union Berlin to kick on from 2 excellent performances against, I say Gladbach, I think they drew, was it against Frankfurt, but they hardly created anything. It was a poor performance. Yeah, if they play like that again, I think Union Berlin will get the result. And I think Union are still in more need of points. They've climbed out away from that sort of relegation battle now, but they can really kick on here and give themselves proper breathing space with another win. So I think they can win 2-0. 1-0 would be a little bit disappointing for the sake of this bet because it'd only be a push, but it wouldn't lose anything. I think the 2-0 and 3-0 on the cards here because they have really impressed me in the last couple of weeks. They're not a team that I bet on very often, but I did have a hot dog on them last year. I think it was a similar time of year, actually. -1 Asian against Cologne, and they won that 2-0. So good memories for me on this hot dog with Union Berlin. So we'll give them a crack again.
-1 on the Asian line, +265. And just quickly to wrap up Bundesliga on Saturday, Steve, you've got a lean in the Leverkusen Bayern game, which is obviously the big game of the weekend. Top two going head-to-head. 8 points the difference now. I mean, Leverkusen have got to win this one, haven't they, really? They drew at Wolfsburg last week. I mean, they have to win it.
I've got to lean Leverkusen here, draw no bet, for two main reasons. Number one, like you said, it's more of a kitchen sink game for them. They've got to win it to stay in the title race. And number two, they've got a really good record against Bayern in the last couple of seasons. They beat them in the Pokal. The earlier meeting was a 1-1 draw. And to be quite frank, I think they've got a better manager. I mean, me and Nigel had a good discussion about Vincent Kompany yesterday. I still don't think we fully trust him. Let's be honest, he was, 10th choice for the Bayern job, ultimately. In really big games, do we trust Kompany? They've become brilliant flat-track bullies in the Bundesliga. And that's what you've got to do to win leagues, to be fair. That's why they're 8 clear of Leverkusen. They have put away the poor teams so well, and Leverkusen have dropped points, too many draws. But in the really big matches, do we trust Vincent Kompany? Not for me, not yet. He could do with a statement win here as well, to be honest. But I don't think they'll get the win. I mean, the other thing, Bayern can take a draw. Like, Bayern would be happy with a draw. So that's why I think draw no bet on Leverkusen, +130. They should be the favourites here. This is rubbish. Like, how can Bayern be the clear favourites here? I'm not having that at all. Leverkusen should be a quarter of a goal favourite. Draw no bet, +130. It can't go down as an official pick. I could have had about 5 or 6 official picks this week, no problem, by the way. But this is a lean at +130 on Leverkusen to keep the title race alive in Germany.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the pricing looks wrong to me, and Leverkusen have got to win the game. Let's get James's hot dog next. We move to Italy. Lazio against Napoli next up for us Saturday midday. Lazio are +165. They are favourites here against Napoli, +175.
Yeah.
Fourth versus first here, James. But the head-to-head might be the reason that Lazio are favourites, because they played twice this season, once in Serie A, once in the Coppa, and Lazio have won them both. I mean, Napoli are on a good run at the minute, but Lazio maybe have just got that handle on Napoli potentially. Yeah,
well, this is it, Dan. There's actually a lot of reasons I think you can make a case for both of the two teams in this game, and that's actually led me to the hot dog pick, which is on the tie. That's my hot dog. It's Lazio-Napoli, the tie, +215. So it is the outsider of 3 in the match odds market here. Lazio +165, Napoli +170. I just looked at it and I thought, yeah, you can make a strong case for both sides, but in a way, I think they might actually, in a positive way, end up cancelling each other out here, because they'll both, I think, for various reasons, fancy their chances of getting the win. You mentioned Lazio feel like they've done a job on Napoli this season. That will certainly give them a lot of confidence. They were 5-1 winners at home to Monza last weekend. I think we were on them with a lean in that match on the Asian handicap, so plenty of positives for Lazio. Napoli have dropped a couple of points recently where you might have thought they'd win games, but they've been brilliant away from home all season. I think they've only lost 1 of their 12 away games. So, why would they lose here? So it's one of those games where, yeah, you can make a case for both sides. If I was to back one of them, it would probably be Napoli. I had a long look at them, tie no bet. -110, so you would get your stakes back there if it ended in a draw, and then win if Napoli won. But the more I looked at it, I thought it is one of those games where I think the tie is the outsider of 3, which we often overlook, don't we? We're often looking to back one of the two teams. Actually looks quite good value to me here at +215, because I think that both teams will have a real go. Both have got positives in their favour, but there are also reasons why they might not win it. So, yeah, let's wait and see what happens. It should be a great game, should be a really entertaining game. There's lots at stake for both of the sides, we should say, as well, in terms of Napoli's case looking to obviously win the title, and Lazio are still in there looking to finish this high as they possibly can. So it's the tie for me. It's my hot dog pick, and at the moment it's +215.
I think it's a really good play. David Neres, I think he's out as well, isn't he, for Napoli? That's going to be a
I really like in this game as well.
Starting games. Go on, Steve.
Both teams score, yes, -125. I think James is spot on. I think both have kind of got to go for this. I was doing a lot of research into this game, funny enough, and I couldn't pick a winner either. So someone's going to hit a tie on one of these hot dogs soon on this show, Premier League show, and I think this could be the one.
Yeah, I mean 1-1. I can't see it being high scoring. That's my only thing about maybe avoiding both teams to score.
Cue the 3-3.
Yeah, well, yeah, it could be. I mean, both are missing some attacking players.
True.
And also, Antonio Conte, does he just think I'll take a draw here? I've been done twice. I'll take a draw. Inter have got a big game. They might drop points. We'll see. I mean, I think the tie's solid. Both teams to score, sort of minor, unofficial lean from Steve. We'll say.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got a La Liga lean from James on Saturday. I actually think this is, for me, this is one of the best bets of the weekend. I know it's only a lean, but I really like this one. Real Madrid are away at Osasuna. It's 10:15 on Saturday, US Eastern Time. Obviously, Real Madrid playing City again in the Champions League, 3-2 up from that crazy first leg at the Etihad. James, you've talked about their defensive issues over the last few shows, and we've profited from that. But even just from an Osasuna standpoint, I mean, they don't get beat at home, and when they do get beat, it's not by a lot. What do you got for us here? Yeah,
well, Steve said it. He could have had 4 or 5 official plays on the show this week. I'm kind of the same. I'm looking at this wondering why it's only a lean, actually, because it could have been a 1-unit play, and it could have been a 2-unit play. So the pick is both teams to score yes, which is available at minus 148. That's on the Osasuna versus Real Madrid game, as you said. Might be a little bit short for some people. They look at minus 148 and think, well, you'd rather you were backing nearer to even money, wouldn't you? But I think it's really good value, even at minus 148, because I used this as a play last week. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, both teams to score yes. In that case, it wasn't much to do with the scoring patterns of the two sides. It was to do with the fact that Real Madrid have got this defensive injury crisis, and it did pay off because of that. We saw the same thing happen in midweek when they played really well going forward against Manchester City, but they won 3-2. They obviously had problems at the back in that game as well. And it's the same again here. They're going to have to be playing a patched-up, makeshift back four. Why would they keep a clean sheet? And you mentioned Osasuna, Dan. They've scored in all 12 of their home games in the league this season, and that includes a 4-2 win at home to Barcelona. So you've got an Osasuna team here who know exactly how to score at home. They won't be overawed by facing Real Madrid at home, given what they did Barcelona. So I think there's every chance they would have scored anyway, even against a slightly stronger Real Madrid defence. And Real Madrid should score as well because they're in great scoring form and they've got everything to play for in the league. They can't afford to ease off, even though they've got that return leg against Manchester City coming up. So for me, I'm expecting both teams to be really positive here. Osasuna won't be overawed, as I say, and have got a better chance of scoring because of the defence they'll be facing. So both teams to score, yes. As I say, people might look at minus 148 and think, it's a bit short, but I really don't think so. So it's only a lean. If I could have had more official plays on the show this week, this would have been on there because I do think you've got a great chance of this paying out for you this weekend.
I did look at the Asian minus or plus one Osasuna at minus 109, but there's always that nagging feeling that Real Madrid, as they do, just sort of nick a goal late on and win it 3-2, 2-1 or something like that, and you get your money back, but it's not enough to cash your bet. Real Madrid minus 125 to win La Liga. Incidentally, Barcelona 2-1. Atleti plus 330. Really good fight at the top of La Liga. Probably the best league for that, isn't it, at the minute?
Yeah.
Let's get to some Sunday picks, shall we? Udinese against Empoli. Steve's 1-unit play coming your way. This is 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. Udinese snapped to run a 6 games without a home win last time out. They beat Venezia. Empoli, though, who I really liked at the start of the season, and I backed them a few times on the Asian line, and they made me money, but they have fallen apart. They are sinking fast. Steve, 1-unit play. Empoli to bounce back, Udinese to go back-to-back, we win.
Well, I'm going to start off with an absolutely incredible statistic, and this is actually nothing to do with the soccer on the field. This is just the second time ever on one of our shows that someone is tipping up Udinese as an official pick. And this is since the whole channel started. 4th of June 2023, Daniele tipped up Udinese plus a quarter against Juventus and it lost. So this is the first time I've ever got involved in one of their games, I think, as an official player, let alone bet on them. So this is kind of uncharted territory. They're not a team that ever get much. I mean, I think James was against them with Napoli a few weeks ago. That's the other time they've been on. But I like them to beat Empoli here. I mean, I looked at Empoli's match last week. They didn't have a shot on target against AC Milan. And I looked back before that. In the last 4 games, they've actually only had 5 total shots on target. And they've done well to score 3 goals, to be fair. That's a hell of a conversion rate, isn't it? But they're really poor. And I think one of the main reasons for it is they've got a massive injury crisis. This is a proper infirmary. If you just look at their absences, they've not just got injuries, they've got so many like ACL problems, Achilles tendon, I think someone's out for, long-term injuries. They are in a mess. The squad is just not great at the minute in terms of availability. They're not a great quality team anyway. They're always hovering around relegation. And surprise, surprise, they're 17th. That's where it feels like Empoli are always. Either mid-season, at the end of the season, like 16th or 17th. That's where they go. So I think they're in a bad phase. And I think Udinese are not a bad team. You know, they just drew at Napoli. Anyone who watched that game, you know, probably Napoli will feel they should have won. But fair play to them. You know, to get a 1-1 draw there, that's got to give them some confidence. They were, I think, were they 3-0 up against Venezia? Or at least 2-0 up. And then they nearly blew it and then won the game late. But they dominated that match, really. They should have won convincingly. So I just thought a -110 on the money line, just simply to beat a really poor Empoli side at the minute, who we know they struggle for goals generally anyway. They've lost 7 of their last 9 in Serie A. I mean, there's a long history of draws in this fixture, but head-to-heads never really worry me too much. And I'm very happy to take, as I say, Udinese straight on the money line here. I mean, it was really torn. It was either this one or Genoa. I really like Genoa on Monday night as well. But, you know, we can talk about that match later. Similar to James, I could have had 5 or 6 official plays on this show this week. And I thought, let's change it up and back someone that's never really been backed. So let's give them a bit of love here. Udinese to win against Empoli.
Big game in Italy is the Derby d'Italia, Juventus against Inter, 2:45 Sunday afternoon stateside. It's the 184th Serie A meeting between the two. The reverse fixture was 4-4, first ever 4-4 between the two in all competitions, 252 meetings. And James is on same game parlay duty for us, so James has picked the big game of the weekend, which is good to see. The last 2 SGPs have both. We're on a roll here with the same game.
Hey, I forgot to even mention that at the top of the show.
Easy.
I have been basking in the glory of an SGP winner all week. It has felt good. It has felt amazing. Do you know what? I felt so good. I nearly said to Nigel, "Can I have an SGP every week now officially?" Partly because I need to reclaim back my losses from it.
I heard there was a private conversation between the two where you begged to say, "Can we just drop it for the rest of the season?"
I did.
Nigel said no.
That is true. Nigel gave an interesting impression of me on the Premier League show, but it was entirely accurate. That's exactly how it went, and I did.
There's only one person who hates the same game parlay more than you, and that's Nigel. So for him to say,
have we found the right formula though, Dan?
Yes.
Have we found the right formula?
Well,
Maybe.
look, James, the stage is yours for the same game parlay. I mean, this is a great game.
Yes,
we've gone same game parlay, and we're steering away from the money line, which I think is sensible here, because I never know if Inter just want to take a draw here. They're a point behind Napoli, and Juve have got that Champions League return against PSV to come, so I think it's difficult from that standpoint. But we are heading for different markets, James.
Yeah, we are, and it should be a great game, this. And I think one of the things about Juventus, obviously they've got this ridiculous number of draws over the course of the season, but they've been a little bit more positive for me recently, a bit more attack-minded. You've got obviously a cutting edge in attack with Colomwani, who we've mentioned. I'll come on to him. But yeah, it's same game parlay duty. The tables have turned with this pick, as Steve is saying. And I think, do we have a winning formula? Well, what's worked really the last couple of weeks is keeping it very simple, having a couple of legs to a parlay rather than going for the big wins. And that's what I'm sticking with this weekend. So only 2 legs to my parlay on the game. The first is on over 1.5 total goals in the match. You mentioned the first meeting finished 4-4. We're not expecting another 4-4 here, but the stats are in your favour because over 80% of all matches involving these two sides in Serie A this season have had 2 goals or more. So I think it should be over 1.5 goals in the game, even taking into account some of those other factors like Europe. And the second leg of the parlay is on Juventus to have over 3.5 corners in the match. That's just on Juventus. It's not total corners in the game. Juventus to have over 3.5 corners. I think it's happened in 10 of their 12 home matches this season. And they're averaging nearly 6 corners a game at home in Serie A this season as well. So I think they'll be really positive. And when they have been positive in Serie A this season, it has led in most of their matches to a pretty high number of corners. So that's the same game parlay. Over 1.5 total goals in the game, and Juventus over 3.5 corners pays out at minus 114. And I just wanted to mention Kolo Muani there, Dan. We've mentioned him in the show because he left PSG. He's gone into Juventus. I thought it was a great choice of club by him. He had a couple of offers on the table, but I think he felt there was a gap there for a number 9. He's hit the ground running. He's got 5 goals in his last 3 Serie A games. He's done really well. I should flag up, he barely played for PSG in the first half of the season, which was a big shock. But he barely said a word about it, did Kolo Muani. We didn't see an interview. We didn't see any complaining. Just carried on training. He's moved to Juventus now and he's doing really well. So I'm very pleased for him. He's plus 340 to score this weekend. I think that's not a bad price, actually, for a player who's in... Yeah, big price, really good form, who Juventus are now looking at as their number 9, their goal scorer. So if you're looking for a player play in the game, Kolo Muani would be my pick. But the SGP, as I say, it's over 1.5 total goals and Juve over 3.5 corners in the game.
If I gave Steve you a free $50 play on either the money line or the over and unders, any thoughts at all on this one? I mean, I'd say I would bet the draw, but that Champions League reverse with Juve worries me a little bit and what they might do team-wise for this one. Very quick thoughts on any of their main markets.
Inter. If you give me a free bet, I'll bet on Inter.
Right.
I trust them.
Yeah.
I still think they're the best team in Serie A and probably will, hopefully not. We hope Napoli go on and win the title, but I think Inter, for me, are one of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah, I'm siding that way. I think I will watch the game. Be a really good atmosphere as well. We've got some Sunday Serie A leans. Let's rattle through these pretty quickly here. James, early on Sunday, Fiorentina, Como. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, just to lean this, Fiorentina, I thought were a little bit big here. They're minus money, minus 109 though. I thought was quite big on a team who are 10 places, 20 points above Como in the league table. Big difference in quality over the season, and Como I think have lost 4 of their last 5. So it's all on Fiorentina here to get the job done against a side who are struggling. Only a lean. I don't have huge faith in Fiorentina, but they are the better side. And as I say, I felt minus 109 was a decent price.
Yeah, and good performances, a win and a narrow defeat against Inter recently for La Viola. And Steve, you've got a lean in the 9 a.m. game, Monza Lecce.
There's so much potential in this whole Serie A round. I mean, I think there's so many good bets on the card. And I believe there's such a lazy goal line been set for Monza against Lecce. Over 2.25 goals at minus 103. I just think sometimes the odds makers look at matches and reputations and say Lecce are known as being quite defensive and think, we'll stick quite a lowish goal line on 2 or 2.25. But just look at Monza. They're rock bottom. They've got to go for it. They can see goals left, right and centre. If you took over 2.25 goals in all of their last, I think, 12 games it is, you'd only have lost the full cash once. There's a couple of half losers in there, but you'd have won 8 times out of 12. Yes, Lecce did draw 0-0 last week against Bologna, far different opponent. Before that, they won 3-1 at Parma. They're going to look at this match. This is one of their easiest matches of the season. Draw's probably not that great for them. They need to come and win. And the way Monza are playing, they're going to go all out. So I thought the 2.25 goal line was way too low. It should be 2.5, really. Minus 103, clear over for me.
Let's get some French fancies from the boys here. We've got a 1-unit play from James. We've got some leans as well in France on Sunday. The 1-unit play comes early, 9 a.m. Eastern. Montpellier plus 335, Lyon minus 141. We've had a little bit of love, James, from Montpellier over the course of the last month, 6 weeks or so. But that's now disappeared by the looks of things with your 1-unit play here. Paulo Fonseca is in charge of Lyon and got his first win last weekend. You're expecting them to kick on. Talk us through your play here.
Yeah, the plays on Lyon on the Asian handicap. They're obviously, as you said, minus money to win the game. So I'm backing them minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap at minus 112. I wouldn't talk anybody out of backing Lyon minus one on the Asian handicap. I do fancy them strongly here. They've had a change of manager, which I think surprised people. They sacked Pierre Sarge, who'd done a pretty good job. But actually what they've done is they've replaced him with an equally good manager, really, in Paulo Fonseca. He already knew the French game because he'd been manager at Lille. And it's been really smooth so far because there's been basically no change of style. Similar tactics, similar focus on attacking football. I thought they were really good last weekend in beating Reims 4-0. Convincing performance from Lyon, and they did it without Alexandre Lacazette in attack. Some might say that improved the attack, actually, because they've got other players who can come in and do well. But all round, pretty good for Lyon at the moment. And you've mentioned, we've lost our love for Montpellier. We have, actually, and a lot of that is down to the transfer window, actually, because they sold 3 really good attacking players during the window. They only replaced one of them. So Montpellier have got weaker, and you might wonder why a side who are facing a relegation battle are prepared to get weaker during the transfer window. A lot of it is down to money, because we know that French clubs are, in some cases, short of money, partly because of the TV deal, which isn't as good as the previous one. Montpellier are one of those clubs, so they have got weaker. I'm not really with them anymore, having thought they might actually be a team to back. That's all changed now. They go into this game on the back of 2 defeats to 0. Confidence is low again because of those performances and what happened in the window. So I think this is a great opportunity for a Lyon side who are on the up to get points against the Montpellier side who are going down. And as I say, there's various ways you can back Lyon, but as long as you're with them, and I think you're on the right side of this game. So for me, it's Lyon minus 0.75 Asian handicap, and it's available at minus 112.
That game is at 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. We've got some Sunday leans in France as well. Both of you have got thoughts in the Strasbourg game. James, you can go first here. They are away at Lens.
Yeah, and I'm with Strasbourg here. So I've gone Tino Bet Strasbourg, which is available at plus 230. It was nearly my hot dog play this week. It's obviously available at big odds. My thinking on the game, Dan, is that Lens are priced up here, all wrong for me. They're minus 139 to win the game. That, to me, looks like a price on Lens before the transfer window, rather than Lens as they are today. So just to bring people up to date, Lens have lost 4 of their starting 11 players during the transfer window without replacing any of them. Again, another club who made it clear they wanted to raise money through transfer sales. Fair enough if that's the policy, but the team has got a lot weaker. They've sold Brice Samba, their goalkeeper, to Rennes, and then a couple of their centre-backs have moved to the Premier League. Kevin Danso's gone to Tottenham Hotspur, and Kadir Kusanov went in at Manchester City. Then just this week, their right wing-back Frankowski has moved to Galatasaray. So what you're looking at is a much weaker Lens side than we were looking at in October, November, December, and yet they're minus 139 this weekend to win at home to a Strasbourg side who are in pretty good form and only just behind them in the table. So I think Lens are too short. I was looking for a way to support Strasbourg. You can back them on the Asian handicap. You can back them double chance market if you like. I think those are both worth considering. I'm going the Tino Bet. It's quite a speculative bet in a way because it could end in a draw. And if it did, then you wouldn't win anything, but you wouldn't lose anything. So let's see what happens. But I think being with Strasbourg in some way is a way to play here, because I think Lens at the moment, the market makers are pricing them up, as I say, almost as if they haven't got weaker, and they definitely have.
And defensively weaker, could buy into your lean, Steve, in this one.
Yeah, it almost pains me to say it. I do agree with James here. I like Lens. I've always liked them as a club, and obviously I love the manager, Will Still, but they're always overrated even before the transfer window. Like their prices are always much shorter than you want to actually back them with. I mean, if you can get Strasbourg to beat Lens over a match bet for the rest of the season anywhere, take that, because I think they'll definitely finish above Lens now. Do you know what? Strasbourg are even a dark horse for top 4. 50-1 for the top 4. Not saying they'll finish top 4, but I could see them getting top 6 even with a good run. Ambitious club. We know what the ownership situation is there. But I like the goals. Over 2.5 goals, minus 134. I think both managers are going to really... It was a 2-2 draw early in the season. enterprising clash. Both managers, a bit of a rivalry between them, I think, already. Want to show what they're made of. I think in time, both would fancy themselves managing the Premier League.
Yeah.
And look at the metrics. Like, Lens are by far the most underachieving side in front of goal. And Strasbourg are one of the biggest overachieving sides defensively. I think one of the reasons for that is the goalkeeper. He's at the wrong club. He should be at Chelsea, Petrovic. But I think if you look at the underlying metrics, we should get some goals here, and I think it'll be an open game. -134. Lens have the most under 2.5 goal games in the whole league, but it's because they miss so many chances. One day they're going to convert some of these and absolutely rack up a big number against someone. Maybe not here, but over 2.5 goals. I think it'd be an exciting game.
And lastly, on the lean front in France, it sounds like all these leans are pretty positive leans. We go Rennes against Lille, and James, maybe a continuation of a new manager bounce here.
Yeah, well, is it a new manager bounce or not? I mean, it's very interesting at Rennes. They've changed their manager. They've got rid of Jorge Sampaoli. They've brought in Habib Bey, who's a really highly regarded young manager in France, and he's had an immediate positive impact at Rennes. It has honestly been like watching a different team the last couple of matches, especially last weekend when they won 2-0 against Saint Etienne. I was really impressed. They looked better coached. You could see them trying things all over the pitch which had been worked on. Partnerships opening up in that team that we haven't seen before, and they were comfortable winners. So I think what you can see from Rennes between now and the end of the season is potentially a top 6 side in terms of how many points they get on the board. They probably won't finish top 6 because they've got too much ground to make up, having been really poor in the first half of the season. But they always had the squad to compete for the top 6, and they might finally start to play to that potential. So I really fancy them this weekend at home to Lille. They are the outsiders of 2 to win the game. They're plus 170 with Bet Rivers as we're recording, and Lille are plus 160. I wouldn't be surprised if those prices flip as people maybe wake up to the fact that Rennes are improving. So would you back them to win the game? Maybe not. Lille, let's be honest, are a really good side. I think they've looked a little bit tired recently, but they are still top 4 contenders, so it won't be an easy game for Rennes. But I wanted to be with them somehow, so I'm backing Rennes Tino Bet, which is available at -113. You'll only lose with this pick if Rennes lose the game. And given the improvement that they've shown in these first couple of games under Habib Bey, their new manager, I'd be really surprised if they do lose. So Rennes Tino Bet for me at home this weekend.
Monday leans from Steve Wyss, ladies and gentlemen, for you. One in Italy, one in Spain to wrap up the show. 2:45 on Monday Eastern is Genoa against Venezia. And you're going home win here, Steve?
Yeah, well, I'm not on the live show on Monday, so I thought I'll put my thoughts on here now. Genoa, definitely. This was so close to an official pick for me. I absolutely happily would have had them as the 1 unit or even the 2 unit play. I think -107 to beat Venezia. That's way too big. Venezia, the worst away team in Serie A. They've had 1 win in the league since the 30th of October. They're a very poor team. And Genoa, I've mentioned it loads of times recently, under Vieira, they are a lot better. And they've proven in the 2 home wins they had against Parma and Monza, they can do it against the poor teams at home. They won't just settle for a draw. It's clear for me. Genoa shouldn't have a problem here against a very poor Venezia side. -107 on the money line.
Great stuff. I am on the live show on Monday, so any notes you want to pass to me, that's absolutely fine to save me on the research. Barcelona versus Rayo is the other game on Monday. I really like this, but I think this is one of the bets of the weekend, really. We know that Barcelona.
You've said that a lot, haven't you, on this show, Dan? The bet.
I have this week.
There's so many, isn't there?
It's a big week.
I thought it was the same for the Premier League show. The boys didn't think so as much, but I think there's some brilliant bets to be had across all the major leagues here. But yeah, this is another one of my favourites. I've got about 8 2-unit plays this week. Barcelona against Rayo. We know that Barca can throw in some. The problem with this one, Steve, and you'll know, and everyone will know this. This one could make you look foolish because Barcelona, we know, can run riot. We know can score 5, 6, 7. We've seen it in recent weeks, but they have lost to poor teams at home, and Rayo are not a poor team by any stretch of the imagination here. So it's all about, for me anyway, how do I side against Barcelona and get with Rayo Vallecano?
I think Rayo Vallecano are a bit disrespected here by the books. Yeah. You can get them on a +2 Asian handicap
Massive.
I think minus 110, minus 114. Which, if they lose by 2 goals, 2-goal margin, you'll get a full refund. They have not lost by more than 2 goals to any team in any competition this season. It did happen in the Cup against Real Sociedad 3-1. And the only time in La Liga it happened was at home to Las Palmas, of all teams, 3-1 as well. Work that one out. But they are in good form. Everyone remembers them for that 3-3 draw they had against Real Madrid a couple of months ago. Showed they can sort of go mano a mano with the big teams there. They're not conceding many goals of late. Rayo Vallecano and Barcelona did up a lot of people in their last home game. 1-0 win against Alaves. Tons of people on the goals, handicaps, whatever. I think they're in a phase of a season, Barcelona, right, where they are just managing games. They're managing the squad. They've got a massive schedule coming up soon. Copa del Rey, big La Liga games, Champions League. They just want to get in here and get out with the minimum of fuss, get the win. They'd happily take 1-0 or a 1-0 win. And if it is a 2-goal margin, then we get a push. Of course, Barcelona can hammer anyone on their day. But I don't know if we're going to see an unbelievable version of them this Monday against a very robust side who can defend well, but also hit them on the counter-attack. So Rayo Vallecano, disrespected. +2 Asian handicap.
I think it's one of the best bets, no doubt about that. I mean, they're 6th, Rayo. They're top of the 6-match form tables in La Liga. 11 points better off this season than at the same stage last. 5 teams above them, played 5, drawn 3, lost 2. Those defeats only by 2-1 scorelines. And you're right, I think Barcelona, who beat Alaves 1-0 recently, they take that. I really like this play. +2, minus 114. There's disrespect there. But, Barcelona could easily run out 7-1 winners. Yeah, you just never know. Unlikely. I think Rayo a really good bet. Excellent stuff. Some really good plays over the course of this weekend. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. Let us know, of course, in the comments what you are betting this weekend across the European schedule. We'll keep everyone up to date with our Twitter feeds. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European Show. We're back next week. Picks, plays. Hot dogs. We've got the live show, of course, from 11 a.m. Eastern every single midweek day. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Because We Win, on Instagram as well. We've got the Betting Weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel also. For now, though, from myself, from Steve, and from James, it is your lot. Have a good betting weekend.